Thank you.
Here's Janesya Limbrick. Okay, we called 23 CR 1127. Janesya Limbrick. That you?
Yes, sir.
Come on out. Okay. Mr. Morian is your attorney, correct? And the state's attorney is present. You were charged in this case with the first-degree felony of murder. If convicted, this states that you face no less than 5, no more than 99 years confined in prison or life imprisonment. And also, this is alleged to have occurred on or about June 6, 2023 in Jefferson County, Texas. Do you understand what you're charged with and the punishment range applicable?
Yes, sir.
What is the bond set at right now?
$1 million judgment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Judge, I have a number of her family members here, but I've got 4 people that I'll call. They'll be very brief. And the very first person I call will be Shantae Limbrick, her stepmother. Miss Limbrick, you still have to wait.
Come on.
Where do you want her? Steve, Judge.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Judge, you want to swear this witness in?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the statements you make today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Lower your hand. Full name, please.
FHAUNTE. Limbrick.
Please state your name before.
Janesya Kimorie Limbrick.
And how do you know the defendant here, Janesya Limbrick?
I'm a stepmother.
How long have you known her?
About 8 years.
Okay. And do you know where she lives?
Yes, she currently lives in Basement.
Okay. Where do you go?
I live in Beaumont.
And how long have you been there?
It's been a couple of months. I was living in the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
What line of work do you know?
I'm an elementary school principal.
Okay. And I believe I asked you, you've known her quite a while, haven't you?
Yes.
Okay. And the judge
You,
is,
again, she's your mother or stepmother?
I'm a stepmother.
You're her step.
Yes.
and so knowing her for the length of time that you've known her, have you ever known her having been trouble, serious trouble like this?
No.
Sorry. We have the last question again.
Yes, ma'am. I
Your
apologize.
face.
Yeah, she got to take everything down.
Thank you. So we have filed a motion to reduce the bond. And so I'm gonna ask you a few questions about her finances, okay?
Okay.
Are you familiar with her finances generally?
Generally, yes.
At the time that this happened, her date of arrest was June 6th. Was she working at that time?
She was.
And who was she working for?
It was an at-home job. I'm not really sure.
Is that the job where she had the telephone?
Yes. Yes.
Helping people with the phone?
Yes.
And prior to that, had she been anything that gives you
Yes.
gainfully employed? I will not mutter and murmur.
I think you're speaking about 300 words a minute,
Yes, sir.
which is her limit.
I will slow down. And are you familiar with her finances?
Yes.
And could you tell us what her financial situation is?
As of now.
Yes.
Well, of course, since this happened, she has no job and we depleted her funds and tried to maintain her bills that she had.
Have you been able to maintain her bills thus far?
Yes,
And does she have an apartment?
she does.
And where is that?
In Baytown, Texas.
If she is able to get out on bond, is that what she would like to do if the judge allows that?
Yes,
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not she would be a flight risk?
I do.
Okay, can you give us that opinion?
Yes, I can tell you that she will not fly or run or skip or hop or jump anywhere.
Understand. Does she have a large family?
She does.
Okay, and what about community involvement there in the Baytown area? Can you tell me, does she have any type of community involvement in organizations or groups?
With her church, with Bishop Harris.
And how long has she been a member of that church?
For several months.
And prior to that, what was she, a member of another church?
She was a member of the church in Beaumont with Bishop August.
Are those churches affiliated with one another?
They are.
How long has she been affiliated with that church or those churches as far as you know?
The church in Beaumont, I don't know.
Okay. With regard to bond conditions, our judge can, if he chooses to, put various bond conditions on her, such as curfew, monitor, things like that. As well as doing drug testing and whatever else he chooses to do. Do you think that knowing her like you do, that there would be any problem with her complying with any of those bond conditions?
No, sir, she was fully compliant.
Judge, that's all I have is witness, so I'll pass the witness.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, you are excused, ma'am. Next, please.
Miss Lily Maddox.
And raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Lower your hand, thanks.
Please state your name.
My name is Mary Limbrick.
How do you know Janesya Kimorie?
I'm her dad's first cousin.
Okay. Where do you live?
I live in Beaumont, Texas.
Are you familiar with Janesya's affiliation with any organizations locally?
Yes, with the church when she was here living in Beaumont, Texas.
When was it that, how long had she been in Beaumont and affiliated with the church that we're speaking about?
It was some years. I just recently moved down to Newton, Texas here.
Newton, Texas? Okay. 6
years.
So as far as is she a faithful churchgoer at the church that she's at now?
Yes.
And now, are you affiliated with the Beaumont Church or the Baytown Church? Okay, so let me just ask, when she was living in Beaumont until a few months ago, was she there quite often?
Yes.
Do you consider her to be reliable?
Yes.
And as far as bond conditions, if the judge decides to set bond conditions that would ensure her appearance and whatever other conditions that would be put on her, do you feel like she would meet those conditions, or do you think that she would let us down?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. That's all I have. That's it.
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay,
I am.
everybody has soft voices.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Yes, Judge. I would call, let me call Pastor Robert Harris.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Well, you go ahead.
Please state your name, sir.
Robert Harris.
And how do you know Janesya Limbrick, the defendant here?
She's one of the members out too.
How long have you known her?
Well, I've been knowing her for off and on the road for years. She's been coming to the church. We also have a covering church in Beaumont.
Okay. And the church that you pastor is in Baytown?
In Baytown.
Did she come to that church from the church in Beaumont?
Yes.
And do you see her regularly at church?
Yes.
And do you consider her to be reliable? If you ask her to do something, does she do it?
There.
Yeah. What else do you know about Ms. Limbrick that the judge might need to know in deciding whether or not she's a flight risk or a danger to the community?
Just a kind, nice person.
You understand what she's charged with, do you not?
Yes.
Is that surprising to you?
There.
Okay. But you understand that is a very serious charge and that the judge can set bond conditions and lower her bond if he chooses to.
Yes.
But if he lowers his bond and sets bond conditions, do you think that she would follow through with those bond conditions and appear when she's supposed to and be in court when she's supposed to?
I did.
Based on your knowing her over the years, do you think that she would it surprise you if she would be a danger to the community thus far? I mean, thus far or in the future?
That must surprise.
That's all I have to go to pass witness.
No question, Your Honor.
Okay, your excuse.
Thank you, sir.
Next,
And then
please.
finally, Judge, I would call Pastor August McKinley, or Mr. Pastor McKinley August.
What's your final answer?
That's it, Judge.
Okay.
That's it, McKinley August.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, sir. Lower your hand. Thank you.
Would you please state your name for the record?
McKinley August Jr.
And how do you know the defendant?
It's a pastor, but I'm also the Crawford.
Okay. And assuming since you're her godfather, that you've known her all of her life, and you understand what she's charged with, correct?
Yes, I do.
And tell us what involvement she has had with your church over the years, sir.
She's been dedicated. She had no choice. Been dedicated, never had a problem with it.
Does she have a large family? How many of them here today? You see who's in the court
Yes,
behind us?
Very supportive.
And do you think that with conditions, with reasonable conditions of bond and lowering the bond, that she would be able to make her court appearances and do everything that she's ordered to do by this judge if she's given the opportunity?
Yes, sir. Definitely make sure she.
How many people do you think she has behind her to make sure that that's?
Yeah. One choice.
I understand. Now, with regard to, and I know you probably don't know anything about any details about her finances, but just generally speaking, before this all happened, before she was arrested and being held since June 6th, did she have a lot of money?
No.
Did she keep a job
Yes, she
generally?
did. Yes, she did.
Okay. And do you feel like she was a reliable person in your church?
Sure.
And if she is able to make bond, you feel like she would make her appearances and she would do what the judge asked without any question?
I know she did. Yes, sir.
I'll pass it with the student.
No question, Your Honor.
You are excused, sir. Thank you.
Those are all witnesses, Judge.
The statement call, Your Honor, Detective Heather Wilson.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
Lower your hand. Thank you. Go ahead.
Please state your name for the record.
Heather Wilson,
And Ms. Wilson, how are you presently employed?
the detective with the Beaumont Police Department.
And were you called out on the night of June 6, 2023 in reference to a murder?
Yes,
And where was that at?
I was at 3710 Magnolia, Beaumont, Texas.
Is that the Pointe North Apartments?
It is.
Okay. And when you got there on scene, what did you observe?
Met with officers, my supervisors, other detectives. The scene had already been taped off with crime scene tape. There was a deceased black male subject. We didn't know the identity of at the time, deceased in the parking lot.
Okay. Was there also a vehicle that was running there?
There was, yes,
Okay. And was that ultimately determined to be the vehicle of the deceased?
it was, yes.
And did you ultimately determine the deceased there to be a Curtis Crawford?
Correct, yes.
Now, were y'all able to locate some video there from Marine doorbell camera?
We did,
And that was at apartment 1503.
correct.
And what did that video show?
Basically everything. We had a full view of the parking lot where the vehicle was parked and where the occupants had exited the vehicle, and where the shooting occurred.
Okay, you say. So let's break that down. Initially, there's a vehicle that shows up. Is that black 2007 Mercedes?
Yes,
So that shows up. Does it park right there at the apartments?
it does,
And that's near apartment building 13.
correct.
Okay. Does anyone get out of the vehicle?
Yes, two people get out.
Who was it ultimately determined to be that got out of that vehicle?
Curtis Crawford and Ms. Limbrick,
Okay. And
You're talking about the defendant?
correct.
Okay.
okay, and they got out of the vehicle. Where did they go after they got out of the vehicle?
They walk off camera towards another apartment building, so you can't see the exact location of where they walk off to.
Did they come back to the vehicle at one point
They do, yes,
and then walk off again?
correct.
And then what do you see after they walk off again?
There's two people that come into view of the camera and they're hiding behind a vehicle as if they are anticipating someone coming back. Both armed with guns.
So are they kind of crouching down behind the vehicle? And actually on the video, does it show what looks to be one of their cell phones lighting up?
Correct.
Okay. And what happens after that cell phone lights up?
Mr. Crawford then comes back in view of the camera and gets gunned down.
Okay. And you say that they're crouching behind the vehicle. Do they start chasing him at that point?
Yes, you can see Mr. Crawford come back in view of the camera and they approach him. And then he starts running into the parking lot and they chase after him.
Who's they again?
One was determined to be Jamal McCain and the other is still unknown.
And was Mr. McCain ultimately determined to be the boyfriend of the defendant, Ms. Limbrick?
Right.
Okay. Now, were you able to speak with, so they just gunned him down. Was there any firearm ever found on Mr. Crawford?
No.
In fact, was it determined that he didn't have a firearm on him?
Correct.
Were you able to interview Ms. Limbrick?
Yes.
And did initially she tell you that she wasn't on the scene when this happened?
Correct.
Okay. Were you able to get her cell phone and determine that it was pinging off of that location?
We're still waiting on the actual pings, but we manually went through the phone to determine context in the phone.
Were you able to locate some deleted message between Ms. Limbrick and Mr. McCain on that night at the exact time of the murder?
Correct.
Was it basically a play-by-play of her asking him to get out and give her a hug and basically setting Mr. Crawford up to be killed?
Correct.
And when we see the phone going off on the video flashing, is that at the exact same time that she's going back and forth messaging this with Mr. McCain
Correct.
while he's crouched down behind a vehicle?
Correct.
So we still don't know the actual second shooter.
That is correct.
I'm sorry, I missed that last.
The second shooter. Now, were there approximately how many shots were fired?
I want to say
Maybe 12, something
12,
like that.
yes,
Do you know the caliber? 45, I believe.
they were 45.
Okay. Pass away.
The cell phone that you are talking about having, that was her cell phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's my understanding that she found out maybe on the news or something that she was a person of interest. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and she voluntarily came to the PD and turned and to visit with whoever wanted to visit with her, correct? Correct. And she had her phone with her.
She did.
And she gave her phone to you or one of the other detectives
She did.
and consented to the going through the phone and looking through it and whatever else you wanted to do. Is that right?
It is.
Okay. Did you determine in your investigation if Mr. McCain and Mr. Crawford knew one another?
Not positively. I believe they knew of each other, but just kind of.
Do you know what that was? Do you know why this occurred? Have you determined that?
I can only give you speculation.
Okay, and tell me what your speculation is based on the evidence that you've seen so far.
Kind of the word on the street is that there was a hit on Mr. Crawford.
Okay.
There's money on his head to be killed.
Was there a reason for that?
He had robbed some individuals prior to this.
Okay. Did Mr. Crawford have a criminal history or any type of that in his background?
Yes.
He did. What about Mr. McCain? Did he have anything in his background?
Yes.
Okay, was it felony related? Did it pin time?
Yes.
What about Janesya Limbrick? Do you have any prior anything?
No.
The context of the text messages between Mr. McCain and Miss Limbrick, as you testified to, where that's been referred to as a play-by-play, but would you agree that those text messages were instructions, him telling her what to do?
She's replying back to him, but yes.
Yes, but she would ask him and he would tell her what to do, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Was there any other suspect other than Mr. McCain and Ms. Limbrick.
There is a second shooter involved that has not been identified. Where she is.
Was Ms. Limbrick cooperative with you?
She was.
Did she give you any trouble whatsoever?
She did not.
I'll pass you.
Now, Detective Wilson, is this the first time that it's been kind of suggested that Mr. McCain and Miss Limbrick had basically fulfilled a hit on somebody
It's come up in past investigations.
in other murders?
It's
Pass the word.
So, being unfamiliar with what you're referring to, has that been in the recent past or long ago?
the one I'm familiar with was in 2020.
And it's your belief that the names that came up were the same names that we have here today, as far as Janesya?
Yes.
Remember? Okay. Was there anything ever came of that investigation?
No, she was never charged with anything.
Okay. Was anyone charged with anything in that case?
Yes.
Okay. Was it Mr. McCain?
No, it's not.
Okay. Was that case resolved, or I guess did it end up in a trial or resolution?
One of them pled guilty, I believe. I don't think it ever actually went to trial, but there's still several codefendants that have not been identified and charged.
I understand. Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if there was anything that's pending against Mr. McCain or anyone else that is left unresolved.
Not officially. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Nothing further.
Okay, anything further?
No, Judge.
Okay, I'm a little fuzzy about something here. What did you conclude the defendant's involvement was? In your
Basically,
investigation?
setting up the victim. She
How-
had
how
been
did-
with the victim prior to him being killed. They had been parked up in his vehicle at a different location in Beaumont. And through the text messages with Jamal McCain, it looks like she was given instructions to go ahead and head that way towards the apartments. She couldn't really say why her vehicle would be parked at these apartments, but it was basically parked on the roadway, kind of waiting. And he gave instructions of where Mr. Crawford needed to park and for her to walk through the breezeway to give the explanation of, hey, walk me to my vehicle. And then
To whom?
Mr. McCain to Miss Limbrick. These are the text messages. And for Mr. Crawford, basically when he's walking back to his vehicle, is when he would approach him. So he's instructing Miss Limbrick to get in the car at that point. And she is conversing with him the whole time that she understands and that they're on their way. And she didn't see a gun on him. He didn't have any money on him at this time. So there's different details like that that kind of imply that she had knowledge of what was going to happen.
Did it also say whatever she wiped to wipe whatever she touched, essentially
Yes.
wipe it down?
Wipe it down.
Just me ask a question.
Okay.
That was the instruction that he gave her, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and in addition to that, once again, those are things that he's telling her to do, and she's following those instructions apparently through the text messages. Is that correct?
Correct. And she's confirming different details.
Now, I know that you said that there was something about some money. He actually had what, over $600 on this person?
Who's me?
The victim.
He did have cash on.
And
yes.
that money was, his wallet was in his pocket, he was there, all that was intact, as far as you can tell.
Yes.
When this shooting occurred, the two individuals that were seen doing the shooting fled the scene immediately, correct?
I did.
Did they try to take anything from the person around?
I did not.
Thank you.
Did he also tell her to tell him, Mr. McCain instructed her to tell him to get out and give you a hug or walk up and walk you to the door, but y'all will never make it that far?
Right.
That's the one.
I got one other thing, Judge, that might clarify. So was there anything else in the text messages that indicated what was going on as far as a motive or anything like that? Was there anything that anything that was discussed about that?
No, sir.
Okay, because a lot of these messages were, as you said, erased, but they're filed, they're still in the phone in another little folder, right?
Correct.
And so you pulled those up. Was there anything else that you saw with regard to anything that prior to this day where there have been conversations or anything planned?
No. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Well, that'd be good.
Okay, on the camera, the doorbell camera that you say that was clear enough for you to be able to discern certain things. What is it? Did you see the defendant in the doorbell camera?
You can't make out faces, but you can see subjects. You can kind of tell that it's two black males, but you can't specifically look at it and say that is that person. So,
What about the vehicle she drove? The theory is she drove a vehicle that brought the victim to the scene. Is that right?
no, the victim, she rode in the passenger seat with the victim in the victim's car to the scene.
Okay.
Yes,
Her car was at the location.
Does it show that victim's vehicles?
not in the, yes, the victim's vehicle.
It's still running, Your Honor. While he's deceased there, it was left running in the parking lot.
What about the defendant? Is she just
You
in the
can't see
car?
her vehicle in the camera. Yes, sir. It's on the other side of kind of the breezeway they talk about in the text. So she's parked in the actual roadway.
And at approximately the same time, Your Honor, on the video, as well as the text showing him saying to tell him to walk you to the door and y'all never make it that far through the breezeway, is where you can see the female and male walk through that breezeway. They snuck up. The two individuals are then sneaking up behind there's a Ford F-150, and they essentially, the female doesn't come back into view, but the male does, and they chase him down and shoot him right there.
Who is the female?
She was identified as
Saying
Miss Lynn.
that's the defendant.
Yes. Yes.
So it's your theory that this was an assassination and the defendant played a role in the assassination by bringing him to the scene where he was going to get killed,
Yes.
and that she knew what was happening.
Yes.
Anything else on the from this lady?
No, we're good.
Any other evidence anybody wants to present?
No,
No,
you're
you're-
Okay, summary, anybody?
Judge, I have a brief one. Judge, I would simply point out the fact that Ms. Limbrick has no prior criminal history. She has been stable in Beaumont and in Baytown with regard to having residences in those two locations. She doesn't, she has attended the same church for many years, starting in Beaumont for a number of years. And then when she moved to Baytown, went to a kind of an affiliated church where everybody still knows one another. She's got a tremendous large family here in Beaumont, and they are very close. They're all here today. Many of them are here today. You've heard from both her pastors, and she's always been able to maintain employment, but she at this time does not have any, she's not employed now, obviously, and has no funds to be able to make bond. But I'd also point out, Judge, that on June the 6th, when this all occurred and she became a person of interest, she immediately went to the police department on her own volition and took her cell phone with her, went down and voluntarily met with these officers and detectives, voluntarily gave them a statement and gave them her
What is it?
phone.
That's true.
It was, Your Honor, but I'll say the statement she gave initially was not what ultimately she admitted to later on.
Well, what is it? What is it? Nobody's told me what she's admitting to here.
Judge, I can tell you what it said. What she did is when she went down and gave the statement, she did place herself in the location by giving information that she was in the location. The detective says initially in the report that he appeared to be deceptive, giving some deceptive information, but upon further questioning, did give a lot of information and cooperated.
Well, Your Honor, they
By
also,
saying what? What ultimately did she inculpate her with?
by saying that initially she stated that she was not there at the scene on the north, that she had left earlier. She had been there with
And
the,
what she ultimately admit to?
she
was with-
didn't admit to,
that she was with
that
the
she was
judge,
with him. That's all she admitted to, Your Honor.
and that she took him to the location, or was with him at the location where where he was ultimately gunned down.
But originally, what did she say?
That she was not at the location at that time that he had got shot when they were able to show that.
Try to explain that.
Why she said that?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why she said it, but she when she was questioned further, they got the information that they wanted.
I know, but why would you just come out with a lie?
Well,
I mean, that, right?
Well, in Your Honor, they also told, both of the defendants told Mr. McCain's daughter to say that she had picked them up on that date and brought them somewhere else. And she ultimately lied initially and then admitted that they told her to say that, to come up with the story on that date.
Judge, to answer your question, why she would say that, because she didn't want to be implicated. That's why, not that it's a good thing, that's the explanation.
But it's not a good thing.
No, sir, but that's why.
Okay, anything else?
Judge, the state just believes that $1 million is appropriate. This is, a premeditated case where she was, actively involved in this. The state also would, note that the other shooter is still on the streets right now. We still don't know where that individual is.
What does that have to do with her?
Well, since she was actively involved in this, she knows that individual as well as potentially, I'm not sure if they would plan out any other crimes if she's allowed out. She did ultimately work together with these other individuals in this case to plan out a murder.
Judge, I think it's speculative to say that she, that she.
Well,
she
how's
knows
it
the
working
other
out
person.
for her now? Okay,
You're right, Judge. And the only other thing I was going to say, Judge, is that she has, if you, in the context of these text messages, it's obvious that she didn't have, that it wasn't premeditated to the point that she knew what was going on before that night, because the text messages are instructions on what you need to do. And so that doesn't make it any better, but as far as the premeditation goes, it's not something that appears to be planned out.
I mean, who does this? I mean, who does that unless it's for an unforgivable purpose? I mean, nobody directs people like that in
She was
in these circumstances without somebody has wit about them, realizing that this is going to probably result in something that is terrible. I mean, who does that? Yeah,
Someone who's coerced, Judge.
is that? Well, I didn't hear she was coerced.
There's also other, the state's also surmised some other things as well, but there are a lot of factors that are going to come into that, Judge.
Well, until it does, I'm in the blind.
Yes, sir.
All right, look, everybody here is familiar with the fact that the rules for fixing bond are set forth in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Article 17.15 states that the nature of the offense and the circumstances under which it is committed are to be considered by the court. The future safety of a victim of the alleged offense and the community shall be considered. And that bail is to be sufficiently high to give reasonable assurance that the undertaking, that is, appearances and the safety of the community, will be complied with. It's not to be used as an instrument of oppression, and ability to make bond is to be regarded. And I really haven't had a lot that I've heard about her ability to make bond. I don't know if she's what her income is, but I sense it's not really a factor in this case that she could afford an expensive bond. Now, that's statute. The court decisions have gone on to state that other factors can be considered by the court, including a defendant's work record, family and community ties. Now, that was brought into the equation somewhat today. the defendant's length of residency, prior criminal record. Is it true as far as the state's concerned, she has no criminal record?
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant's conformity with previous bond conditions, has she ever been on bond before? Just because she doesn't have a record doesn't mean she wasn't arrested before and had to post a bond. Do we know about
I
that?
don't believe so, no, Judge. she-
Okay, the defense says she doesn't. They would know best, but you can verify the existence of other outstanding bonds. Are there any other bonds pending?
No, sir, they're not.
The aggravating circumstances alleged to have been involved in the charged offense are also duplicative of the nature of the offense and the circumstances under which it is committed, which are to be considered under Article 17.15 duplicates this. And finally, the citizenship of the defendant. So what we have here, just that's jumping out, of course, is the nature of the offenses and the circumstances under which it was committed. This is, from what I hear, an assassination. And then the issue becomes what part of this is being played knowingly by the defendant. The state contends that she knowingly and voluntarily took part in driving the defendant to the scene of the crime and essentially walking him into his death. Isn't that right? Is what
That's
you
correct,
said.
Your Honor.
What is it you can tell me that would connect a culpable mental state to her in this? I mean, so she drives him and he gets shot and killed. That's terrible. But what did she do knowingly that that was going to happen? What do y'all have?
Your
And
Honor,
she doesn't shoot the gun. She's not grabbing the gun. She's not helping him shoot the gun. She brings him to a point where he's shot and killed, but you have to prove that she was knowingly aware of this, right?
yes, Your Honor, I believe
Okay, what
the
is it?
text messages are pretty clear that.
See, I don't have the text messages, so I'm really kind of in a blind. I don't have that. That
I actually have the,
context.
I do
that
have the text
need
message,
to
Your Honor.
infer.
I have copies of all the text messages.
Who's who?
The
If
one,
you'll-
Judge, which one is that? There are several different ones, Judge, that there are two sets of text messages.
Y'all gonna help me?
Yeah.
Who's who? I mean, I don't know.
The blue would be Miss Limbrick, I believe, and the other, the lighter blue, look, color. And these are the ones, Your Honor, that were found in the deleted folder. This number.
All right. So. When this is happening. Walk through breezeway, then you walk like you need some. Out the car. Cause it's parked in the front, okay. She answers, be gone back to his car. Then the person who is texting is who? To her?
It is Mr. McCain, Jamal McCain, the
Okay.
codefendant.
All right, who is the main?
Yes,
Uh,
Your Honor. He and
One of
another,
the other.
there's
one of
another,
the
there's
two
two
main-
shooters. Yes, yes, Your Honor. One of them we haven't identified.
Okay. She says, okay, be gone back to his car. Then they say, we don't take lie detective test because they not accurate. I'm saying that if they ask you to take one, but delete this. They're telling her to delete,
Yes,
to
sir.
delete the message.
Apparently so.
Okay, well, that's just. Why would you do that if this was no good, up to no good?
And Your Honor, just to note that on the Ring doorbell camera, the time on there also corresponds with the timing of these text messages with how it occurred on there. What we were seeing.
And Judge, just to be clear, we're not here on this hearing challenging the probable cause. We're just asking volunteer use. So I just wanted to make sure that I understand.
I don't need to read again what
Yes,
the
sir.
elements are in setting a bond, but the circumstances and the defendant's involvement are inherent.
Absolutely.
Probably the most important.
I understand, Judge.
Okay, so it's a factor that
I just want to give
is
you.
important.
I just want to make sure that I was clear on the motion of file because I didn't want to.
And then something about wiping, you touched on the cool. I guess that's getting rid of.
That's my understanding, Your Honor.
It appears she's been instructed to wipe fingerprints possibly.
When you see what you see, get in the drive side. Drive to the street next to the one we was parked at last night. Tell him to get out. Give you a hug or walk you to the door, but y'all will never make it that far. And then the answer, so same place? Yeah. Okay. So pull in the back or the front, she says, back. Okay.
Judge, I believe that was where he asked her whether to go in the front or the back. He told her where it was.
Some of these are duplicate.
Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, I think a lot of the last probably duplicates.
These look like duplications.
I believe it is, Your Honor, probably that last stack
I
right
mean,
there.
the inferences are. Warning about lie detector tests, wiping evidence clean. Directing her movements and the inferences. This is not going to end up well. Who's the green? He's green.
I believe that's Miss Limbrick. I'd have to see. I'd have to look at those, Your Honor. I'd have to be honest with you. I'd have to
Judge,
look at
the
those.
green ones are actually those, the green would be hers, but that would be from a different day. That's it's just a different day and has really nothing to do with the situation at hand, I don't believe.
And this was on April. So, but this would have been in June.
Yes,
The
Your
event
Honor.
was June.
Yes, yes.
Um, Okay, anything else to add by anybody?
Nothing further from the
All
state.
right, if not, the court's gonna make the following findings that they're um, that the key elements here, since the defendants, the information that the court has is that the defendant's criminal history is clear and her family and community ties are good. It's the issue of the nature of the offense and the circumstances under which it was committed, and the aggravating circumstances alleged to have been involved in the charged offense. This is murder, which is a most serious offense, which carries with it up to life imprisonment. And the circumstances show that in this case, the victim was walked into an assassination, and that the person who escorted him in was the defendant. There's no proof that the defendant did the shooting or even masterminded and planned out this execution, but it is inferred from the communications here and the evidence presented that the defendant, there is sufficient proof to show that the defendant was aware of the circumstances that she was involved in, which would be leading the victim to his probable death. So the bond, what are the bonds on the other defendants?
You're all there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you're.
The this bond is going to be reduced. It's not, but it's not going to make you happy. I'm going to reduce it to $500,000. The question then becomes really whether it's a bond or fine, whatever. What is the price of a human life? What is it worth? And there are all types of homicides. Here, this is a very disturbing situation where there was a planned out assassination, and he was walked into his death sentence, and the defendant was involved in the executing of this plan. And it's clear from the inferences in the communications. So the bond, though, is reduced as the court compares the culpability to the people who may have shot and who were directing the defendant. They are more culpable, the court finds, according to the circumstances of the crime. If the defendant posts a bond, she will be on house arrest. She must have a GPS device, and That those will be bond conditions if she's able to post a bond. Is there anything else on this?
I think the only other thing, Judge, I don't know that she would be able to, but in the event that she did, would you give us a number of days of on posting bond having it accomplished?
Yes. Well, no, when she leaves, the.
So that day, let's make sure.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, because no, there is no gap.
That's
When
fine.
somebody is required to have a GPS, they've got to work that out
Right.
to where they are monitored from the time they leave
I just wanted to.
custody. Because we've had more than one occasions where we photographed the people going into Mexico later that day.
I understand.
And we've learned a lesson. Trust in God, but always tie your camel. That's an old Arab proverb. Be prepared.
Right. I understand, Judge. Nothing further from the defendant.
Okay, anything else? If not, we are in recess. Thank you.